Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In our previous videos, while discussing list, we have seen so many important concepts regarding list, right? So as part of that, in this video, we will be knowing some of the list addition methods. What I mean is that list is considered as a container, right? So how we can add element to the list. So in order to add element to the list, we will be having some of the method. One is append, extend, insert, and one more way we can use is this particular using this particular is equal to approach. So we will be understanding each of these method and how we can use this method whenever we have requirement. So each of these methods having its own uniqueness and its own usage, right? So let us go ahead and understand one after the other each methods. So the first method that we have, which is append. So this particular append method is used to add the elements at the end of the list. So let us understand through some examples. So let's say I will be having this particular list 1, and in this particular list 1 I will be having elements, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40. So I will be having four elements here, 10, 20, 30, 40. Let's say I wanted to add one more element, let's say 50. 50 I wanted to add to this list at the end. So understand carefully, at the end. So in such case we can use this particular append. So for that reason I am taking this particular list, because to this particular list only we need to add element, right? So I will use this particular dot. This is used to call this particular method, which is append. So after this particular dot I am calling this particular append method. So inside of this particular append we need to pass a parameter. The parameter that we need to pass is whatever the element that you wanted to add at the end. So for the time being I will be adding this particular 50. So now after, if I execute this, so it was got executed. So later what I will be doing, I will just print this particular list 1 here, and if I execute this, you can able to see the result. We are getting 50 at the end. So like this we can add elements at the end. So to understand carefully, I will explain one more example. I will add one more element to this particular list. So previously we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? Let's say I will be adding one more element by taking this particular list 1 and calling this particular append. So now I will add, let's say 100 here. And after that, I will just print this particular list itself. So if I execute this, we can able to see the 100 coming at the end of this particular list. So how this is happening is that we know that a list is a mutable, right? So because of that reason, in this particular list itself, when we add this particular 100, the element will be added in the same list and the list got modified. So when we call that particular list, we are getting the original list with a modified element which are adding at the end. So I hope you can able to understand. So we will be adding one more element. So by that we can go to next method. So I am taking one more method, let's say list1 dot append here. And in this I wanted to append one, let's say list here. Let's say I wanted to append this list having the elements 1 and 2. So understand carefully, I am not appending a individual element, rather I am appending an iterable. List is an iterable, right? So after that, I will just print this particular list 1 here. And if I execute this, you can able to see the result. We are getting the list coming at the end. So if you wanted to add the list as a list, you can use this particular append. But what I wanted to have in here is that I don't want this particular list here, rather I want the individual elements like 1 and 2 as a individual elements. So in such case we cannot use this particular append, we can use this particular extend. So we will take one more example to this append so that we can able to go to extend. So I will take one more element which is nothing but a string here. So the string I will be taking, which is like, or a string can be considered as iterable, right? We can iterate through this particular string. We have seen that in our previous videos. So if I add this particular string and if I print this particular list 1, if I execute this, we can see the result. We are getting this particular like as a single string. So if you wanted to add the element as a single if you want to add the elements as elements, if you wanted to add iterable as a single element, you can able to use this particular append like this. String is considered as a single elements sometimes, right? So in such case you can use this particular append. Rather, if you wanted to add the elements as a individual elements, this particular iterable need to consider as individual elements like 1 and 2. In such case you need to use another method which is nothing but extend. So let us go ahead and understand how we can use this particular extend method. So for that, I will take one more list here in order to understand more clearly about this particular extend. So in this particular list also, I will consider similar elements 10, 20, 30 and 40. So now what I wanted to do is that I wanted to add a list or any iterable. If you wanted to add an iterable, in such case only you need to use this particular extend. Let's say I just add some element which is non-iterable. So for the time being, I will take a non-iterable list2 dot extend, right? So extend, and if I add this particular 50 and if I execute this, you will get an error. Int object is not iterable, saying this particular extend you can only pass an iterable, except iterable. If you pass any other elements, those will not be extended. So this is the uniqueness that we have to this particular extend. So let us pass some iterables and see the behavior of this particular extend. So for that, what I will be taking is that I am taking this particular list2 and I am using this particular extend method, and I am adding the elements 50 and 60 as a list. So list is considered as iterable, right? So I am extending this particular list2 by this particular elements 50 and 60. So if I print this particular list2 and if I execute this, you can able to see the result. The list2 having these 50 and 60 as a individual and independent elements. Previously we have passed this particular 50 and 60 inside of a list. Rather, if you come to here list2, it was coming as a individual elements, you can see here. So like this, whenever you wanted to get the elements inside of an iterable as individual elements, you need to use extend rather than append. So this extend is also adds the element at the end of the list. That is also one of the important point that you need to remember. So let's say if I take a string, right? So string is also considered as iterable, right? So I'm taking this particular list2 and using this particular extend, I will use this particular like here. And if I print list2 now and if I execute this, you can able to see we are getting this particular like as a individual elements, which is like, because this particular string can be considered as iterable. By using this particular extend method, we are getting each element inside of this particular list. So I hope you can able to understand the difference between append and extend. Both append and extend is used to add the elements at the end of the list, but if you wanted to add elements as elements, you need to use append. Rather, if you wanted to add some kind of iterable, you need to use extend. So I hope you can able to understand the difference between append and extend. So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but insert. So with the previous examples, that what we have seen is that using append and extend, we can only add the elements at the end of the list. What if you wanted to add some elements in middle of a list? Let's say you wanted to add some elements at a specific index, right? So in such case, we will be using this particular insert method. So let us go ahead and understand how we can use this particular insert method. So in order to understand that, I will take one more list here. So this list I will be considering with the similar examples. So similar numbers. So why I'm taking this particular numbers is that in order to make the process simpler, in order to make you understand more clearly. So that is the reason I will be taking this particular list. So now I will just print this particular list 3. So if I execute this, we can able to see we are having the elements which are 10, 20, 30 and 40. So now what I will be doing is that instead of having this particular 20 here, I wanted to insert an element which is 200. So how we can do that? By using this particular insert. Let's go ahead and see. So I am taking this particular list 3 to what we need to insert an element. So I will be calling this particular insert method, and inside of this particular insert we need to pass something which is nothing but the index, right? So we need to pass the index which is I wanted to add the element at 20, right? So the index of this particular 20 which is 1, right? So for that reason only, first we need to mention the index. After that we need to mention what the value that you wanted to insert. I wanted to insert 200 here. So after that, I will just print this particular list 3 here. So in this statement, we are inserting an element at index 1, which is nothing but 200. So now if I execute this, we can able to see that 200 is coming at the index 1. So this particular 20 is moved to the right side, which is occupied the index, which is 2, and the previous 30 is moved to the right side and 40 is moved to the right side, and all the indexes are moved to the right side, which is the index plus 1. So all the elements got index plus 1 and moved to the right side. So whatever the desired position, which is nothing but the index 1, that we are inserting this particular element. So like this, we can able to insert whatever the element that we wanted at a specific index. So let us go ahead and see with one more example. So now we will take an example with the particular iterable, right? So by that we can able to understand this particular insert behavior. So I am taking this particular list 3 dot insert at index 1 itself. I wanted to add an iterable. So let's say I wanted to add 20 and 30. So after that I will print this particular list 3 here. So now if I execute this, you can able to see the list is coming as a list itself. So it is not taking these elements as 20 and 30, rather it is considering the list as a list itself, and we are getting the list in this particular list 3, and all the elements we are having 200, 20, 30, 40 are moved towards the right side by having index plus 1. So you can see able to see here. So one more thing that we need to understand here is that using this particular insert, the elements are moving to the right side, right? So previously when we are discussing mutability, by using this equal to method, the elements are getting replaced, right? So let us go ahead and understand the difference between this particular insert and this particular is equal to symbol. Before, I hope you can able to understand the difference between append, extend and this particular insert method. When we need to use what methods. So I will explain one more time quickly at the end of this video. So for the time being, understand this particular difference between insert and is equal to approaches. So let's say I will take the same example here, which is list 3, and I will modify this particular list 3 as list 4 so that we can able to understand more clearly the difference between this particular insert and is equal to methods. And if I execute this, we are getting the values 10, 20, 30 and 40. So now what we need to understand is that if I use this particular list 4, let's say I wanted to take this particular index, this particular 20, I wanted to replace with 200. So for that, I will use this particular index value, right? So by using this, we can able to get the value, which is nothing but 20. So now if I replace and if I use this particular assignment with 200, and if I print the value of list 4 here, and if I execute this, you can able to see we are getting 200 here, and we don't have this particular 20 at all in the whole list. You cannot able to see the value 20 here because this particular 20 is replaced with this particular 200. So previously when we use this particular insert method, we are inserting the elements at the specific index that what we have specified, and remaining the previous element that we have will be moved towards right side, which is nothing but the next index it will be moved, and all the elements that we have apart from that will be moved to the next index itself. But when we use this particular is equal to method, the element itself will be replaced and the remaining elements will be there in their position itself. So I hope you can able to understand the difference. And when you wanted to replace the elements, you need to use this particular equal to method. And when you wanted to remind the elements itself, and the only thing you need to have is that you need to insert an element at the index. In such case, you need to use insert. When you wanted to replace the whole element itself, you need to use this particular is equal to. I hope you can able to understand that. So let us see the differences between this particular append, extend and insert, so that we can able to understand more clearly. So by using this append, we can able to add the element at the end of the list. Whatever the element that you are passing, either it may be individual element or it may be iterable, the element will be considered as a single element and that will be added at the end. So in the case here 1 2, when we pass as a list, it will be considered as a single element and that will be added at the end. The same thing will be happening with this particular like also. So when you pass iterable also, it will don't consider as iterable, it will consider as a single element that will be added by using append. So when we use this particular extend, when we pass non-iterable, we will get an error and we need to only pass the iterable. So when we pass the iterable, it will be divided. The iterable will be divided with each element and the element will be added at the end. That we have seen with this particular 50-60 example, and also we have seen this particular like. So like this, you can able to use this particular extend whenever you wanted to add some iterable as a individual elements. So I hope you can able to understand the difference between append and extend. So these two methods will only add the elements at the end of the list. So when you wanted to add the elements at a specific index, you can use either this particular index method or this particular is equal to method. So when you use this particular is equal to, the elements will be replaced, and when you use this particular insert, the element will be inserted at a specific index and the index value previously will be moved to the right side, which is nothing but the next index. So I hope you can able to understand all of these method that we have discussed in this video. And if you found this video interesting, hit the like button. In the next video, we will be seeing some of the deletion methods. So in this video, we are adding elements to the list, right? So we need to have some method to delete, right? So that we will be discussing in our next video. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.